Okay, I think we're ready to get started here. Welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're at. We're excited to be delivering transforming member experience through artificial intelligence in conjunction with the Pixel8 group. And we're very glad to have you here with us. My name's Russell Magnuson. I'm the CEO of Results Direct. And I have my colleague and good friend here, Alex Skinner from the Pixel8 group. Alex, you want to say hi?
Hi there, everyone. Pleased to be here.
And just a little bit about Results Direct. Many of you on this call might know us as a web design strategy CMS company. Others might know us as an event apps, member apps, mobile apps company. Some of you know us as both. And we'd like everyone to know both of those parts of us. But Results Direct is been in business for about 30 years. And we have hundreds of clients all over the world. And we're just delighted to be doing this session with Pixel8. Alex, you want to talk about Pixel8?
Yeah, so I started Pixel8 around 25 years ago. I'm a technologist by background. We work globally as well with associations. We have a couple of hundred association customers, predominantly across digital AMS systems, and of course, more recently, our AI tech platform. So yeah, very pleased to be here.
Okay, what we're going to be talking about today is AI, of course. We're going to be skewed a little bit towards what people commonly think about, which is search and chat bots and creating results that exceed the typical search experience. We're going to touch on how to make more money, how to do things that maybe you haven't thought about with AI and search and providing different tiers of services, if you will. We'll touch on how to integrate with your existing systems. And we're gonna have a focus on how you can get started and actually start delivering immediate value. And really that kind of brings us to here. At Results Direct, we started doing AI development work, almost the day after ChatGPT was released. We've had mixed results over that time period. In one sense, the results were remarkable and surprising, and we were, like many people, just really kind of in awe about what AI was ready to produce. At the same time, our actual experience at prototyping it into different products, primarily our mobile products, was very mixed. And when we dug into that and talked to why people weren't using the tools as much as we thought, what came up was, well, I'm not sure if I can trust the answers. I'm not sure where my question is going. Is it being recorded? So our experience was mixed. And what that did is it caused me to kind of just step back a little bit and say, this needs to evolve and progress more, I think, before we're just going to try and start putting it out there, as the answer to all things. So over this period, as I think everybody's aware, the technology is rapidly improving. It's exploding. It's exceeded, I think, the impact of the web itself, as an area of technology. And one of the things that's exciting to us is working with one of our partners, here, Pixel8, is, they ReadyIntelligence, which we're going to talk about throughout this presentation, finally brings together the elements to make AI deliverable and to make it trustable and to actually do and solve real world challenges that associations have. So we're real excited to be doing this morning. Alex, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd echo those comments around the pace of change, and certainly it's the only time in 20 years that I can remember building so much technology, binning so much technology, rebuilding so much technology, and just the constant shifting sands. And that's really what we've set out to achieve with ReadyIntelligence, is to, how can you build a platform that will evolve as things do evolve, and knowing that certainly around some of the models changing and some of the capabilities changing, how can we build a framework that allows us to evolve and keep pace with things? And that's where we've landed on what we've built.
Yeah.
So in this particular slide, this is a slide that I use internally when talking about our own business and how we use AI. But it also maps very nicely to the roadmap that we have been going through in terms of building out our platform around, picking very discrete use cases that are low risk, that allow us to experiment with AI tooling. Obviously, examples of that would be things like meeting transcripts, those kinds of things, through to taking areas of the business where we have confidence to be able to, have much richer AI automation, through further still to actually having key business roles where previously they were largely manual, whereas now they're fully automated. And my prediction really for the future is that right now, as technology platform creators, we build software with features, and those features are used by our customers and the different business units and business teams that we have. We certainly see in time that certain features and functions may be largely agentic or largely autonomous. So we will be producing software where we're producing the software to operate, but then also the agents or agent perhaps to operate that software. So it's a pretty exciting time. We're definitely around 0.5 at the moment on that graph ourselves. We have areas of full automation, but we're certainly not fully automated. Though for a follow-up webinar, maybe virtual Alex might be able to attend and deliver the with a starting position of knowledge being a really good starting point for AI automation, a lot of organizations are sitting on huge swathes of knowledge, and answering our members' questions is a key task for many associations. And so having a starting position of, I want something that is slightly better or a lot better in many cases from the search, which on a website platform can often be the feature of last resort. Moving beyond sort of simple search where it is textual or keyword based, to a point where it truly understands language and understands the meaning of language, means that sort of semantic search is a good starting point to move into sort of AI powered retrieval. Moving on to the next slide, we can see also that in chat is the dominant modality that most people are using to integrate with AI. So asking questions to chatbots on their website, or asking questions to Copilot or similar tooling within the back office environment. But over time, we think that the chat as our mechanism to interact with AI will change, and we will see much more AI being deployed behind the scenes. But also this slide here, in a rather extended way, just illustrates that actually in our tooling already, we've got to a point where we ask a question, the AI then takes the question and asks a better question, or the question we should have asked, against the sources of knowledge and data, in order to actually play back to us the knowledge. So before we dive into a demo, which is obviously the important thing, to actually see these things in action, it's worth saying that with ReadyIntelligence, we acknowledge the fact that there are AI systems deployed everywhere. And the AI enablement of multiple systems and platforms that we're operating with is part of the problem. And actually, we are continuing to kind of support the sort of siloing of knowledge and data. So what we're seeking to do with ReadyIntelligence is to be able to create assistants that can be deployed either to our customers, our members, our partners, to our staff, or can be used behind the scenes to automate the business, really operating on a unified data platform, of a unified collection of knowledge. So let's move into this first example. So the first example we've got here is a traditional knowledge search. And what we can see here is that when the user loads the screen, we've got a recorded video just for expediency. I can say, what are the key trends in employee well-being? And we get a search which searches, but we can see here that it's reviewing just the organization's knowledge. The answers are grounded in that organization's knowledge, and we're getting answers back which are not sort of, accessing the wider web and are grounded in that organizational knowledge. What we'll see on the right-hand side, most importantly, is citations that tell us where we got that answer from. So I'm saying this is what the answer to the particular question is, and you can see that I got this from this article, pages 1, 3, 7, 11, etc. So that citation is vitally important because it gives us that confidence that the answer is correct. Moving on to other types of knowledge. So moving on to the next example. We can also see video as a source of knowledge. So what we're doing is we know that minutes of meetings and webinars and all of those kinds of things can have rich knowledge contained within them. In this particular case, I'm coming along and I'm saying what videos are available that are a good introduction to alternative investments. And because I've indicated with video, it's going to go and look at the video resources. And what we do with a high degree of accuracy is we transcribe the various videos that an organization may have, and we build it into almost semantic or lingual chapters to allow us to be able to say, I got this answer from minutes 9 through 12 on this particular webinar. And clearly, a lot of organizations have huge swathes of knowledge. And in this particular case, you can see I've got a follow-up question there where it's actually getting those answers from journal articles. So it doesn't need to be reports or PDFs. Data sources really can be websites, PDFs, documents, videos, minutes of meetings, event recordings, podcasts. But additionally, we have connectors through to the likes of SharePoint, Google Drive, Dropbox, and we can do a much better job actually of ingesting that content than is possible on those platforms. Moving on a little bit to the next example. So it's not just for our members. If we have a unified platform, then we may want staff to be able to interact with the system as well. At Pixl8, we have an intranet, for want of a better thing, that we run all our business on. And in this particular example here, you can see I've got a bot where I'm coming along and I'm asking a pretty standard question, which is, how can I book a meeting room? And it's going and whirring away and looking at our wiki, and it's telling me what the process is, which is ultimately, a certain Slack channel that we book things through, an automation that does things. If I want to book a hotel room, I can learn what our operating process is for that, and get the data back here as well.
So Alex, would this be a typical application that an association could augment their customer service team with? Would that be a
exactly? So you could have data, you can see examples of questions coming in clearly, asking online and having a web search, but a lot of organizations will use ticketing systems like Jira or Service Desk or Zendesk. So we can also integrate with those and give back an automated answer potentially that comes from a central knowledge base. But also a back-end tool that allows people to, answer questions or find the answers to questions themselves. Marketing teams can also use it for content generation, because one of the significant benefits we have over something like ChatGPT or Claude, where you have to upload the documents into a project that you want to work on, you don't necessarily need to know where the documents are. You can say, I want to write a new blog post, I want to summarize our recent webinars, and it will go and find the content that it needs to do that. So yeah, there's a lot of different use cases.
great?
Moving on into data and forecasting. So obviously knowledge can take a number of different forms. PDFs and things like that are very obvious. But if we look at this next example, this is where we're actually bringing data in from an AMS system. In our case, it's running on Ready Membership, which is our AMS, which incorporates ReadyIntelligence. But in this particular case here, you can see graph me my active memberships by grade, let me know what my likely 2026 levels will be, and give me some strategic advice. So in this particular case, the assistant is acting more as a data science assistant, and doing reports and that kind of thing. So we can see some projections that it's produced, and as we scroll down, we can see that it's given me some recommendations that says I should focus on the leaky bucket and sort my retention out, as well as some uplift to sort of more expensive plans, that kind of thing. Moving on to a more integrated example. So in this particular case, we're going to demo something called MCP. MCP is a very powerful technology, which is often referred to as the USB-C of AI models. It's a connector that allows us to plug many different systems together. It's really an API on steroids, I suppose. But where it's particularly interesting for organizations is the fact that it allows us to be using tools that we're familiar with, like ChatGPT, or Claude, or various other tools, Gemini, that we may be using within our organization, but to take advantage of what we have with ReadyIntelligence and make our knowledge and tools available to that closed system. And this is very, very useful because it means that we can use some of the latest features and functions that these tools like ChatGPT have, but we can give ChatGPT controlled access to our knowledge and to our backend system. So if we see in this particular example coming up.
So just before we look at that, so you're saying somebody would actually be going into the Claude or the ChatGPT interface,
Yeah,
that they might use for a variety of things, but now it would be connected into their local knowledge base through ReadyIntelligence.
exactly. And that we see that at the moment that's likely to be staff or power users that are in an association wanting to do that. We have laid foundations so that when the market is ready, I mean, we're ready now, but we're very conscious of the fact that in general is not ready. At a time when our membership or associations want to monetize their knowledge and their AI tools, being able to provide a subscription, either an elevated level of payment to have access to the bot, that's something that one of our customers is doing, or when the browsers and the general technology catch up and there is agentic browsers, which there will be at some point, we already have the foundations laid such that an association could offer a connector as a subscription in order to be able to facilitate this. Let's look at the example. So in this particular example here, I'm taking the same data that I had a minute ago, where I was saying, graph me my active memberships by grade. But in this case, I've said, using my tools to tell it to connect to ReadyIntelligence, and I've asked it to develop me an interactive tool that allows me adjustable retention and recruitment sliders that will then allow me to interact with that tool and see the effect that it has on my data. So you can see the calls have been made to ReadyIntelligence, but what it's produced is something where I can adjust my retention rates, adjust my recruitment rates, and then see my planning or my prediction levels coming through from the data, which is closed source. And we can see the strategic recommendations, which really tells us the same thing, that our retention rate isn't really where it needs to be. But this is just really illustrating that being able to have future-proof connectivity, because we don't know what we don't know about directions of travel, is important, so that we can establish and we can integrate with new technologies when they become available. Moving on to the next slide. One of the most important things is really thinking about the knowledge ingestion in the first place. So a lot of organizations are using AI, they're wrapping ChatGPT, or they're writing solutions where they're wrapping these models, and they're using AI for the front interface to provide a chatbot. But what we're doing is we're actually using AI in the back end as well, in order to make the most of the knowledge that we're loading into the system in the first place. So if we move on to the next example, what we'll see here is an example of what our back-end users have, where they can see the data sources that they're working with. Those data sources can be assets, website pages, Vimeo, SharePoint, various other things. But we're looking at this report here, which is a PDF, and this interface shows us the data we extract from those reports. So in this particular case, this is a graphic, which is an image of a chart. But what we're doing is we're actually using vision to actually extract the data, understand the images, pull out the information that's contained within the charts into a textual form that can be understood by the LLM. That's quite unique because it means that even if you've got something like this next example, which has clearly been done in Canva or something similar, it's quite stylized, we can still pull that data out and understand it using vision. Additionally, if you have complex charts and graphs and figures that explain things, where the arrows are meaningful, we're able to then pull that data out, and using vision, we're able to understand the knowledge. And that's vitally important because obviously, if you're just looking at the text that's contained within a document, you're missing out on things. And here's an example of what we pull out with video, and you can see the different chapter headings and sort of chunking that we do on videos in order to provide access to that as well. When it comes to the two sides of things, so what we've talked about so far is we've talked about the AI as it relates to the front end, to either our members or our staff, the work that we're doing using computer vision to actually ingest the data. One of the things that we haven't spoken about is the fact that a lot of those models for computer vision, we're running ourselves. So obviously we know that in Europe, there's some quite restrictive attitudes towards, compliance and data compliance and those kinds of things. So we actually host a lot of our own models around the data vision, such that we're not sending our sort of confidential information out to sort of third party models. Moving on to this next slide, we can see that when we're coming along and we're setting up an assistant, in addition to being able to determine how I want the assistant to behave, what tools or capabilities it might have, whether there's different usage conditions of members being able to do certain things and non-members being able to access certain other data, we also have the ability to configure the bot to ground it in the knowledge that we're making available, usually using a prompting statement. If you'd like to pause it just there, Russ, actually, we can show that. So with the prompting statement, we're able to say something along the lines of answer the user's questions using the knowledge or tools you have available. Keep your answers grounded in just the knowledge I am making available to you, because we don't want those hallucinations. We don't want the sort of things that we can see with it making things up. And one of the things that we can see here is if we go to carry on playing for a second, we can see here we have a huge swathe of different AI models that we can work with. Broadly speaking, you can also notice we added the OpenAI models that were open source that were released yesterday. And we make it so it's possible to add those models very quickly. But one of the key considerations is basically making sure that that you can use different models in different circumstances. So if we're dealing with, industries like financial services, where there might be some very confidential data, or healthcare information or personal data, we want to have the ability to ensure that we're using our own local models and none of the data is finding its way out to these external models. When we're interacting with our models in general, we have a number of different tools that might be available. So obviously a knowledge search could be one form of tool. But additionally, you may have tools that include things like searching a database or looking at what events might be available that the user might be interested in. So we really can provide a conversational interface to many different parts of the system. Knowledge is a good starting point, but really I should be able to look for professional learning opportunities. I should be able to interact with e-learning systems. But when I do interact, what we can see in this particular example is there are learnings that the AI will get from its interaction with me. Those learnings could be things like language that I use. We know, of course, that certainly for international associations, we are two countries separated by a common language. And so we do know, of course, that when you're working with international associations, there may be different language choices made by users. And so having the AI learn about the fact that as a Brit, I use different terminology than as an American you may use, but also where it learns something, either my interactions with it or indeed things it learns from tools, we record those learnings, and those learnings are also looked at over time in order to provide, a more personalized experience. So this can include previous interactions that we've had with a customer, but also previous interactions. When I say RI, I mean ReadyIntelligence. When I say organization with an S, you mean organization with a Z, but it means the same thing. So the kind of semantic representations, but also interactions with me over time. From a roadmap standpoint, we have associations that are using it now. Most people start with a proof of concept and really, iterate from there. We are producing a number of different video platform connectors to make it very easy for knowledge to live where it lives, but be ingested without having to copy it into our platform. So clearly things like Vimeo, YouTube, and expanding those data sources and tools to include things like other data document platforms like SharePoint, Google Drive, etc. But also our work with Results Direct, specifically around integration with different CMS platforms like Sitefinity, WordPress, and others. And obviously, as over time, we are also moving into voice as well through both a meeting bot, but also a voice assistant that allows deskless workers to interact with a knowledge base without having to type.
So one thing we thought would be useful, I think most organizations realize that, there's a whole range of things they might do with AI, but where do they get started? And oftentimes improving their search, the findability of content, creating a chat bot, are kind of the common places that organizations gravitate to as a starting place. So we just wanted to share how to get started with that. And this is something that Results Direct, being a partner with Pixl8 for ReadyIntelligence, can help with. We obviously work closely with Pixl8 when it comes to deploying the AI components of it. But step one is, of course, really just to audit, your sources of knowledge. What do you have? What might you want to create, or what might you want to remove, from being in the AI knowledge store? And step one is, of course, closely tied with step two, which is to define the use cases of, what do you want to do with this knowledge? So for getting started with us, what we do is we'd have a brief conversation just to kind of get your overall goals and picture of things, and then we could enter into an engagement, very nominal cost, where we could help you with auditing things, defining those use cases more formally. Between step 2 and 3 here, there might be another step, which is creating a proof of concept. Because most organizations are not going to be ready just to kind of go all in, right from the get-go. You want to create a concept, you want to test it well, and that's where step 3 comes in with, letting your staff, letting select users, members, um, you know, use it, provide comments, use those comments to, provide additional feedback and to tune the business case for it, tune the technology, how the concept works. When we get ready to deploy it, of course, we're going to look at scalability and kind of rounding it out, making sure that, from an end user standpoint, it's clear where the knowledge is coming from, how it's being cited. Again, the emphasis to create that trustability on the deployment. And then, of course, from there, like many technology things, it's, we monitor it, we look for ways to improve it over time.
Definitely. And I think it's worth saying that our experience to date with these POCs is starting with staff is the most accessible point, getting those documents in there, getting those knowledge sources in there, giving them a tool that they can use so they can use it day to day to, take those questions that they're getting from members, have a look at the AI, how does the AI do? Over time, most of our experience to date actually is more around making sure all the sources are in there really rather than correcting the AI too much. There's style points sometimes in terms of style of writing and verboseness in terms of how verbose do I want the response to be, when I want it to use graphics, when I don't, those kinds of things. But it's starting with staff, iterating, and the key thing is this is a system that can is not limited by how many bots you create. If you want to have multiple front-end bots that are being used for very discrete purposes with different configurations and controls, and then you want to have multiple staff or member or restricted group facing systems, then you can do that. So yeah, you can definitely iterate. And as you said, Russ, the actual process of spinning up a new instance is minutes. It's very, very quick to turn on a new.
And would you say that the search tools is where most organizations start with, or are they starting with internal customer service, or what are you seeing to date?
I think the search or the knowledge base, I mean, a lot of organizations are sitting on such huge swathes of knowledge. And I think if generally speaking, when we talk to organizations, I'm sure it's the same for you, search is often the feature of most disappointment, because we all used to using Google and we see how great Google is with its semantic search engine. So I think search is a very accessible point. But the other key thing is we are able to do more than a semantic search engine because we're able to because we're using vision, we extract more knowledge from the documents, using the getting the graph data and things like that out there as well. So yeah, search is definitely the solid place to start, and then iterating from there basically.
One of the things we're going to send out in the follow-up is a link to this guide, which is very informative. It covers some of the things we talked about today, but it goes into greater detail. So watch for that in your email. And Alex, I appreciate the work that Pixel8 has put into publishing this. It's one of the best pieces I've seen that kind of summarizes what organizations can do with AI, outside of the normal hype that is wrapped around most AI conversations these days. So watch for a link to this in your email. And we have some time to take some questions. And just as a reminder, we're going to be at ASAE with Pixel8 in booth 953. So if you're going to the ASE annual meeting, please do come by and say hello. And of course, we can do a deeper dive into some of these things. On the right is a QR code. If you want to book a meeting, as I mentioned, just to kind of have that initial chat, and we'll get started from there. Because what's really exciting to me from a Results Direct standpoint is I think that this technology and what we can do with ReadyIntelligence finally presents a rational way to leverage this technology, again, outside of the hype. So with that said, I know we have time for some questions. I did have one that that we didn't talk about along the way, but Alex and I, I know we've talked about this previously, and that's on around revenue generation, creating opportunities for additional revenue. And one of the things we talked about was the ability to, I guess, tier access and to
Okay.
charge different amounts. You want to talk just a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that's a pattern that we've seen in a few places. So the idea is that my assistant that's accessible by my members can have access to different data and different tools based on who I am. So one of our customers has a premium tier of really great report knowledge that they've created, and what they've done is they've created an elevated level of subscription that, I mean, it's wrapped up with a whole load of other, the document, the community, there's a lot of other things that you gain access to as part of the subscription, but the AI component is front and center. And effectively, by using single sign-on with the AMS system, we're able to know that you are you and you have signed up to this elevated level of knowledge. And therefore, the AI assistant, because you are you, has access to a broader set of knowledge data. And what we do is we say to the AI, if this data source is available, which is our premium tier stuff, then go and check there first before you then look at our general knowledge base. So there's definitely opportunities to there's definitely opportunities to use the AI with personalization to kind of, upsell and cross sell. One of the ideas I particularly like, although I haven't convinced a customer to do it yet, is the idea of actually being able to tell the AI that there are other sources that I could have access to if I was a subscriber, but then not give the AI actually access to return the results. And that obviously then gives you a potential cross-sell and upsell in terms of saying, well, actually, I do know the answer to this particular question, but it's contained within these reports that are, behind a paywall, and therefore, you need to subscribe or purchase access in order to do that. I think the other
Yeah.
is a really a side point, is what is knowledge? I mean, if you have events or if you have upcoming events, what you may well do is you may well prompt the AI to say, if there is an upcoming event which in its knowledge and learning outcomes is related to the question being asked, I may encourage the user to book that event and say, well, actually, here's the answer, but actually this looks like it's being covered by an upcoming event. You may want to book that. So there's a number of different monetization opportunities, I think, in terms of, unlocking access through payment or indeed cross-sell and
Mhm.
upsell as well.
Yeah, and associations are always looking for ways to provide more value, and being able to monetize that is a key component of this, and the flexibility of what we're doing. I see Katie has appeared, probably with
Yeah.
questions. So
Yeah. Hi, I'm Katie Atkinson with Results Direct. I'm here to manage some of the many questions that are coming in. If you do have questions, please put them in the Q&A. I've seen some appearing in the chat, so we'll get those out to you all to answer. And there is a theme that seems to be fairly consistent. So I'm going to go ahead and just fire away. Question: do associations need to consolidate all of their knowledge into one place before they're set up on ReadyIntelligence?
No, so certainly we do have the capability to have knowledge stored in our system, and somebody may want to do that if the sources where they are or the AMSs they're currently working on are limited. But ultimately, no, we have connectors to most sort of common platforms. We're building out more, so the likes of Vimeo, YouTube, SharePoint. I know with Results Direct, we're talking about integrations for Sitefinity and WordPress. So no, the knowledge should be able to live where it lives, but be, integrated in more of a unified view.
And along with that, the question was, what third-party tools can ReadyIntelligence connect to? I think you just mentioned those. Does that include AMS and CRM systems?
Yeah, I mean the AMS, the main AMS system that we have integration with at the moment is Ready Membership from Pixl8 Group. But ultimately, if people are looking at things like Dynamics or Salesforce, we as Pixl8 have connectors into those platforms, so it would be relatively trivial to make a connector for ReadyIntelligence into those. But it's not something that's out of box at the moment.
Okay.
And what would they typically need that access for? You know,
I think there's two predominant use cases. I think. I mean, of course, there could be more. So in some AMS systems, you will be using sort of case management for managing inquiries or managing cases or complaints. That's an obvious one in terms of being able to deal with initial triage and go back with some initial answers automatically. AI is very good at rule-based things. So anything where you have standard operating processes that can be consulted means any kind of case or service desk management would be one particular starting point. The other starting point really was around that data insights piece that I showed, where it's a case of I want to talk to my data. I want to ask plain English conversational questions and have it build reports for me. And your choice of whether you connect to the AMS or sync data from the AMS will really largely be based on how modern the AMS system is that we're integrating with and what capabilities it has for connectivity. But it's definitely possible.
but they wouldn't typically need it for improving their search or creating search tools or anything like that, because most of that knowledge is going to live outside of the AMS. I suppose there would be some connection if you wanted to, again, offer different levels of service based on the membership type. But otherwise, all of that data is typically not in a CRM or an AMS anyway, and so that's not an impediment.
It really depends on the AMS. I mean, obviously, a lot of the sort of traditional AMS systems we know, the technical level is high, but visual look and feel can be somewhat suboptimal, shall we say. So I think there are AMS systems that are commonly in use in the US where maybe they are using the AMS system still for running their website. I know a lot of people have moved away from that and now using best of breed, and they use the AMS for the portal. But yes, I mean, principally, you can integrate, you can get data out regardless of its source.
We've had several questions about privacy of member data and as well as association information. So I'll kind of wrap them up with one question that says, can you please clarify about the privacy of using AI like ChatGPT, free version versus ChatGPT paid version versus what you offer? Where does the information entered into these systems, these different examples go?
Yeah, and that's a good question. So obviously with ChatGPT, we know that with the free edition, if the product's free, you're the product. That's that old adage of that it's free for a reason. And so definitely, it's always important if you are using ChatGPT to be on the paid edition and to have selected the right data processing pieces. For us, there's two main uses of AI. There's the AI for the assistant, meaning I'm going to go and get the answers to you. And the decisional point really around what models to use there is really around, the domain, I suppose, in terms of, is there sensitive data? Is there PII data being entered? What region we're in terms of jurisdiction and any rules that we have to follow. But essentially, all of it is within ReadyIntelligence's control. It's not a black box. So what we're able to do is go through as part of that consultative process of saying, okay, what's the use case? What's the questions? What's our comfort? Are we working with private data? Are we not? And then what we're able to do is we're able to say, at one end of the scale, we could be working with ChatGPT or OpenAI or Anthropic, which is predominantly a US hosted model, where we are satisfied that their data processing agreements means they don't train on our data, which is the key question, I think, through to actually we're working with sensitive data. There's reasons why we need to be solely in the EU with different EU providers, all the way through to a level of comfort that says, this is all great, but I don't want any of the data going to a third party, in which case it's all hosted by ReadyIntelligence in Frankfurt, in Germany, because Germany has the most stringent data protection laws of anywhere. There is an offer that we haven't deployed yet for a large enterprise customer, where if they said we wanted the entire solution to be running within their own Azure tenant or their own hosting, then that's something that we could offer on a case-by-case basis as well. So it depends on the level of governance and compliance that's needed, really.
Okay.
Yeah, and Katie, so we're coming up on our time. We're at our time, but maybe one or two quick questions, and we'll follow up in email too. So
yeah, recognizing that we're at the end of our time, I'll ask one last question, which is asked by several people. What is the timeline? How does this work, basically? If someone wants to, if an organization wants to, consider AI for surfacing content to their members for use by their staff in order to help service members. What does an engagement like that look like? How long does it take, et cetera?
I can take that one, Russ, or you can interject as well.
well, I think to start, it's as I noted, we need to do a survey. We need to understand what your goals are so that we can, have some very specific metrics for, achieving what you're looking for. I think the proof of concept is pretty quick. And I mean, Alex, what is that typically? A few weeks, a month, or?
Getting access to a proof of concept and starting to have additional, early sessions with staff just to be able to run through the configuration, see some early stage feedback. That's definitely weeks, right? It's very, very quick. In terms of moving beyond early stage concept and saying, okay, we now want to stylize this thing. We want it to appear to our members in the platforms they're already using, be that a mobile app or a website, making it visually consistent. That's very easy. That can be done. Typically we're seeing an iterative process where people are starting with small groups of staff. They're then rolling it out to wider groups of staff. They're then moving it out into a beta group with members and then moving on beyond that. But then conversely, we've seen people that get results very, very quickly. They have a very defined use case, and they're happy to launch it much quicker than that. So the answer is it depends, but it's about an iterative process based on comfort.
So I mean, if I were kind of estimating that, I would say maybe a month to an initial proof of concept if we're just starting from, again, that initial conversation. A few months to a production ready deployment, just in calendar time. And we all know how it works, calendar time. There's setting up meetings and coordinating launches and stuff, so it's really quite quick compared to many things.
And the key thing is it's productized. So where we are building on a product, where we're upgrading on a product, where this is also a platform where the features and capabilities grow, and as things evolve, organizations are able to choose to turn on features or not. Those learnings, for example, is a classic example of a feature that didn't exist a month ago. That's now available. People can then beta test it themselves and then turn on new capabilities over time. So it's not just that initial launch, it's also about the monitoring and continuous improvement that gets made after as well.
Great. So I think that covers what we have allocated time for today, and we appreciate those just hanging out with us a few extra minutes. Again, we'll be following up on this with answers to other questions that we didn't get to this morning. Again, if you're going to be at ASE Annual, please do come by and visit us at booth 953. And of course, feel free to drop us a note, book a meeting just to talk about what you're thinking about, and we'll be able to provide some guidance specifically to your vision, just really after a short conversation. We're excited to do that. As I was saying, as a technologist, I get very excited about AI. Then I kind of got disappointed by it, and I said, no, we're not ready to just kind of roll this out wholesale. But we've been keeping up with it, and I think when we decided to become a ReadyIntelligence partner, I said finally, a platform is available that we can do some real work in. So Results Direct is very excited to partner with Pixl8, and we appreciate all the work they've done, and it's just pretty exciting. So I think that's it. We look forward to seeing with you and talking with you all soon. Thanks. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.